welcome back. The next concept is principles of perception. So, perception operates on certain principles because every person's perception differs based on the culture, traditions, knowledge, idea, and also the needs of a person, the attitude of a person, the beliefs of a person, and many more things. For example, some say that telling lie is a bad habit. So that is their perception. But some say that if you tell a lie without harming others' emotions or feelings, or without harming others, if you tell a lie for a good deed, but then it is not bad. So it is based on their perception or idea of belief, right? So it is clearly based on the perception of that particular person. So we may say that telling lies is a very bad habit, but some other people may say that telling lie for a good reason or for the benefit of a particular person or other person, then it is not a bad habit, right? So it differs on the belief of a person. Therefore, perception operates on certain principles. So first principle of perception is principle of proximity. So in this principle, the elements that are placed together are categorized as a group. So the elements that are close together are generally grouped together. So can you see the stars? So what do you see or what do you understand by these stars? So these are the stars placed one after the other. So we understand them as a row of stars, right? But these are not a row of stars. These are three pairs of stars. So our perception is that we generally group them as together, right? So we are thinking them as a row of stars. But in actual, they are not a row of stars. They are three pair of stars placed one after the other. Clear? So what happens in principle of proximity is the elements which are in a same row or the elements which are placed together are understood as a particular group. For example, in a classroom, if three people are sitting in a row, we categorize them as friends, right? Usually we do that, but that is the principle of proximity. So we categorize them as a group when they are together. We categorize them as friends or family when they are together, whatever may be the reality, but we perceive it in that way. That is known as principle of proximity. So when the elements or when people are together, we understand them as a group or a particular category. Okay, so that is principle of proximity. Next one is principle of similarity. So in this principle, the objects or the elements which are similar in appearances are categorized as a group. So the information which is similar in appearance is grouped as together. So can you see this plus and minus signs? So whatever the image which has this kind of, whatever the object which has this kind of image is categorized as plus. So the symbol marked on ambulance is also a plus. The symbol used in star plus is also a plus. The symbol used in addition is also a plus. So wherever we see plus sign, we categorize it in a plus sign because its appearance is in this way, right? So the objects which are same in appearances are categorized as a group. For example, people who have the quality of singing are categorized as singers. So their appearance is as a singer, right? The people who are tall are categorized as tall people. The people who have curly hair, the people who have straight hair are categorized based on their appearances, right? So the principle of similarity operates on the category where we usually group the objects or information based on its appearance which is similar in nature. So we categorize objects or information based on its similarity in appearance. Okay, so if two people are alike, then we categorize them as twins. We may categorize them as twins, right, or brothers or siblings, right? Okay, that is known as principle of similarity. And the third and last principle of perception is principle of closure, which means the tendency to fill the gap and perceive the information or understand the information is known as principle of closure. It is a person's capacity or tendency to fill the gaps and understand the particular concept. Example, so can you see a image of something? So what do you understand by it? So even though it has gaps in between, you understood or you perceived it as a square, right? So that means it is our capacity that we, even though there are gaps, we fill those gaps and understand it as a square image or square object, right? So it means you have the capacity or you have the capacity of principle of closure, or you follow the principle of closure of perception, where you have the ability to fill the gaps and understand it as a square. Here it is a circle, right? You understood it as a circle, right? Even though it has gaps. So that means principle of closure says that a person has a capacity or tendency to fill the gaps and perceive it. For example, every people chat, right? So we use shortcuts while chatting. Example, V is represented as V, the letter V, and YOU as U, only U, right? So TEL as tell. So there are many slang words or shortcuts for while chatting. So that works on the principle of closure. So in exams or at the end of every chapter, we are asked to fill in the blanks, right? So while reading that sentence, we understand the answer. That is our capacity to fill the gaps, or that means we are operating on the principle of closure. Clear? Okay. And the next is the factors which affect perception. So the factors which are responsible for building perception. First one is attention. So attention is termed as the beginning of knowledge or the beginning of perception, because without attention you cannot understand or you cannot perceive some information. Right? So if you don't pay attention to your class or the subject taught in your class, you will never understand the concept which is being taught in your class, right? So without paying any attention in your class, you will never understand it. Therefore, attention is very important to perceive some information. Clear? Next one is past experiences. If you don't have any familiarity with the object you are dealing with or you are studying with, you will never categorize it as a particular object. You will never understand it. Therefore, you should have past experience to understand something. For example, in previous session we learned about principle of similarity, right, where we categorized some object based on the appearances. We categorized the objects or information based on its similarity in appearance, right? So we categorized plus sign as a particular group. So to understand or to categorize a plus sign in a particular group, you should know that what plus sign is. So if you don't know how does a plus sign looks, how can you say that it is a plus sign? How can you categorize it in a group? So therefore, to understand something or to perceive something, you should know about it, or you should have some past knowledge about it, right? Okay. The next one is interest and values. So interest is also very important in perception. So you can build perception when you have interest in particular subject. For example, if you don't have any interest in personality development class, so if you don't want to learn it, or if you don't have any interest, or if you don't like it, you will never understand what personality development is, and you will never pay attention in that particular class. Therefore, to learn something you should have interest. So if you don't have interest in learning, if you don't have interest in learning singing, you will never pay attention to singing classes. If you have interest in it, if you like it, then only you want to learn it, right? Therefore, interest is also very important in perception or understanding or learning something. Clear? Next is attitude. So what kind of attitude do you have towards a particular information or a particular object or a particular person? If you like a person, you will be favorable to that person. But if you don't like a person, you will never show a favorable action towards that person. So attitude is also very important, right? Because if you don't like a particular subject or a particular person, you will never pay attention, or you will never show your interest in that subject, and you will never understand it. Therefore, your attitude is also very important. Next is cultural norms. So the place where we live, or the culture we follow in the place where we live, is also important. For example, Hindu people treat cow as God, right? Many Hindu people treat cow as God, or many Indians treat cow as a god and worship it, right? So that is their cultural perception. So based on that culture, the Hindus or the Indians perceive cow as God, right? But some people or Western people never treat cow as a god. They treat it as just an animal. So based on the cultures we follow, we perceive some information, or we develop an idea about some information. So culture is also very important factor of perception, which helps in building perception. Next is motives. What kind of motives or intentions do you have regarding the information or a person or an object? So it is also important. Example, if you are very much hungry, you imagine things as eatables, right? If you are holding a pen, you imagine that pen as a chocolate. So the motives you have. So what motive do you have? You are very much hungry and you want to eat. So then what you will perceive? You understand that you are hungry and you want to eat something. Unless and until you are able to eat something, you keep on imagining things that you are eating something, or you are imagining the objects which are in front of you as eatables, right? So these are the 6 factors which affect the perception concept. I hope you have understood it. Okay? Thank you.